זמרו לאדוני בכינור וכל זמרה. זמרו לאדוני בכינור וכל זמרה. זמרו לאדוני בכינור וכל זמרה. זמרו לאדוני בכינור וכל זמרה.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you so much, Cantor Glaser, for starting our evening with some beautiful music. I am Rabbi Abby Phelps. I am joined, as I mentioned this evening, by Cantor Glaser. We are coming to you from Congregation Sherith Israel, from both the sanctuary and our various locations all throughout the city, all throughout the country and the world. It's wonderful to see everyone this evening. And to begin, I believe that we have a board member who's going to say a few words of welcome. So Eric Migdale, if you would, please say hello.
Shabbat Shalom. My name is Eric Migdale. I'm the secretary of the Board of Trustees. And I feel extraordinarily lucky to be here with you tonight on what feels like just the best Friday the 13th ever. The political temperatures have cooled, the prospect of a vaccine has warmed, and we even have some wonderfully cathartic rain to quench our fears for an ending to the fire season that could be worse. So I feel blessed to be here with you all tonight. Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, and agreed. It's nice to have a week where we can say that there have been many positive developments, and there's a great deal of relief to be had, both in the natural world from the rain, and of course, in the political world, irrespective of anyone's particular political leanings. The fact that our political process is functioning and concluding is, I think, a relief after a long and painful period of indecision and uncertainty. Before we continue with the service, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge this evening that it is the Shabbat immediately following Veterans Day. And in honor of Veterans Day, I wanted to read a quick prayer. This is a Veterans Day prayer that was written by Alden Solovey. God of compassion, God of dignity and strength, watch over the veterans of the United States in recognition of their loyal service to our nation. Bless them with wholeness and love, shelter them, heal their wounds, comfort their hearts, grant them peace. God of justice and truth, rock of our lives, bless our veterans, these men and women of courage and valor, with a deep and abiding understanding of our profound gratitude. Protect them and their families from loneliness and want. Grant them lives of joy and bounty. May their dedication and honor be remembered as a blessing from generation to generation. Blessed are you, protector and redeemer, our shield and our stronghold. Amen. And on behalf of many folks in our congregation who served in our military, we're going to take a moment to invite David Perlstein to say the candle blessings for us. So first, I believe Cantor Glaser is going to light the candles. And then David, we'll be very happy for you to lead us in the blessing. And also, if you want to tell us anything about your service, please feel free.
Well, nothing dramatic to say. I did serve 3 years in the Army. I'm a graduate of Infantry Officer Candidate School at Fort Benning, Georgia. but I can say a great many of the people I trained with and served with gave a lot more than I did. And frankly, the Army gave a lot more to me than I was able to give to it, and I'm grateful.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for your words. Please go ahead and lead us.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We continue our service with Lecha Dodi, the song in which we imagine ourselves going out into the fields and opening up our arms and embracing Shabbat as a loved one whom we get to greet every week. Please join us in Lecha Dodi.
Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. lecha dodi, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, ושמו תפארת ונתהילה. lecha דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. lecha דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. lecha דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. lecha דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, 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 שידברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. lecha דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. lecha דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצחולה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה. lecha דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. lecha דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
We now invite you to rise as able and to join us in becoming formally one prayer community as we praise God with the Barchu.
Yada dai dai dai, 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 yada dai dai dai. Baruchu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam va'ed, leolam va'ed. Yada dai dai dai, yada dai dai dai, yada dai dai
Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and seasons glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל, עמך אהבת. תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו, ושוכבנו וקומנו, נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך, ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו לאורך ימינו, ובהם נגי יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד.
We have a very exciting guest with us this evening. Not a guest, a member of the community, but someone who is stepping up to lead us in our prayers this evening, Zachary Camille, whom I believe we will spotlight as soon as we are able, is going to lead us in the Ve'ahavta this evening. So feel free to say hi, Zach and David, if you'd like.
Hello.
And Zach, you are getting ready for your bar mitzvah in the not too distant future, yes?
Yes, next June.
Wonderful. So thank you so much for being willing to step up and chant this prayer for us.
Yeah, I'll just. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha ub'chol nafshecha ub'chol meodecha. V'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi netzavecha hayom al levavecha. V'shinyantam levanecha v'tibarta bam v'shivtecha v'beitecha uvlechtecha v'adere uvshochbecha uvkumecha uktartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha uktabtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tiskeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'hitem kedoshim lelochehem. Ani Adonai Elohehem asher hotzeit kiechem me'eretz Mitzrayim lihiyot lachem lelohim. Ani Adonai Elohehem.
Adonai Elohim emet. Yasher koach, Zach. That was beautifully done.
If anyone has ever tried to chant Ve'ahavta by yourself without a community, it's not it's not easy. And Zach is really, we're working on his Haftarah at the moment, and he's just doing such a wonderful job chanting and really taking this this amazing responsibility and this study very seriously and really just nailing it. So Yasher koach, Zach.
Great job, Zach.
Yes, indeed. Good job, Zach, indeed. And also lovely to see your beautiful cat. Speaking of taking responsibility, in a moment we will sing our prayer Micha Mocha together. And whenever we sing Micha Mocha, we have the opportunity to meditate on freedom, not only the freedom that we enjoy, but the responsibility that comes with our freedom to do good work and be God's agents in the world. Please join us in Micha Mocha.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, תורת תהילות אוסף פלא, תורת תהילות אוסף פלא, מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים, זה
Many things are changing in the world around us and all of the ways that Eric called attention to at the beginning of our service, and yet certain things are remaining constant, and one of those constants is how incredibly important our homes have become to us in this time of sheltering and caring for ourselves and keeping our distance from others as much as we can. And every time we sing Hashkivenu, we have the opportunity to reflect on the Sukkah of Shalom, the shelter of peace that is over us always. Whether we are in our homes or outside, God's peace is always overhead. Please join us in Hashkivenu.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. Shelter us beneath your wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us daily wrong from right. Adonai, Amen, 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 Amen.
We now invite you to rise once more as able, as we prepare for the Amidah, the standing prayer. I often draw some attention to Adonai Sefatai, the prayer that we begin with, and how it invites us to open up our mouths to say the prayers we need to say. But this evening, I also want to draw our attention to the first blessing of the Amidah, Avot ve'imahot, in which we call upon the merit of our ancestors before God to convey that merit to us. It seems especially poignant in a week where we've just celebrated Veterans Day to think about those who have come before us, who have paved the way for us to be here, and those who have supported our ability to be free and active and secure in our lives. So we appreciate all of those who came before us and all of those who will come after us as we join together in the Amidah.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Yadai dai dai, yadai dai dai dai, yadai dai dai, yadai dai dai, yadai dai dai dai, yadai dai dai dai, yadai dai dai, yadai dai dai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor ve'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim ve'Konei Hakol ve'Zocher Chasdei Avot ve'imaot ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם. מחכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ברופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך? מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישוע ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
We now take a few moments to pray silently, whatever words we particularly need to pray on this Shabbat. And after a period of silence, we will come back together in song.
שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.
Well, it has definitely been a long and full week. We have experienced quite the roller coaster of events and emotions. We've seen the relief of a painful and divisive campaign finally mostly coming to an end. We've seen quite a wide mix of results in our national and state and local elections. Of course, at the same time as we've watched those results come in, we've also had to mourn. We've had to mourn the deaths of Lord Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, formerly the head rabbi of England, the UK, I believe, quite an extraordinary scholar and leader. And also many of us, I would wager, are mourning the loss of Alex Trebek, who has been quite a fixture in many of our lives. And of course, we are also continuing to see record numbers of Americans suffering from COVID-19. It's been a lot to process and experience. We've felt joy and sadness. We felt hope and trepidation. It's really hard to know what to think or how to feel at any given moment. And that sentiment is very much echoed in this week's Parsha, Chaye Sarah. Even the name of the Parsha is complicated because Chaye Sarah means the life of Sarah. It references Sarah's life, but in the context of the fact that she has just died. And in fact, despite the fact that life is right in the name of our Parsha, despite that fact, this Parsha is actually very much about death. It chronicles the deaths and the burials of Sarah and Abraham and Ishmael, as well as Abraham purchasing the cave of Machpelah to become a burial plot for his family. So it's fitting that this is also the Parsha in which we're introduced to one of the most contradictory and complicated, I would argue, characters in the Torah, and that is Rebecca, the grandniece of Abraham and of course Isaac's bride-to-be. We meet Rebecca as Abraham's servant is out seeking a suitable wife for Isaac, and this servant encounters Rebecca at a well, and she wins him over by hastening to provide him and his camels with water. Rabbi Shai Held points out that while Abraham's servant explicitly asks Rebecca for a drink, it is crucial that she adds the offer to water his camels. In allowing her the opportunity to make this offer, rather than asking for it at the outset, Abraham's servant is showing that he understands something critical about traumatized, taciturn Isaac. He is not capable of asking for everything he needs. A suitable wife for Isaac will need not only to listen to what he says, but also to try to intuit what he cannot say. The servant's test is about compassion, but it is also about sensitivity and discernment, about responding to unspoken needs and yearnings. In addition to proving herself to be generous and sensitive, Rebecca's act shows that she is strong and energetic. Watering several camels is no small feat. In fact, one scholar estimated that it would have taken dozens of trips between the well and the trough, and undoubtedly several hours to quench all those animals' thirst. And of course, Rebecca's behavior also mirrors Abraham's in last week's Parsha. The same verbs, hasten and run, are used to describe Abraham rushing around to welcome the angels who visit him as he is recovering from his circumcision. So in many ways, Rebecca seems like the ideal choice for Isaac. She is kind and strong and chutzpahdik, and she is a logical inheritor of Abraham's legacy. But we know that there is a very different and much darker side to Rebecca's personality as well. We know that one day she will give birth to twin sons, and she will play favorites with them, preferring Jacob to Esau, just as Isaac prefers Esau to Jacob. And we know that Rebecca will manipulate Isaac, using his infirmity and his blindness to trick him into bestowing gifts and blessings upon Jacob that he had intended for Esau. Now, admittedly, this is all part of the divine plan. God, we are told, also prefers Jacob. But Rebecca's ends, however justifiable, cannot justify her underhanded and exploitative means. Moreover, as Rabbi Held points out, it is the same gifts of perceptiveness and sensitivity that allowed Rebecca to anticipate others' needs, and that also allow her to use those needs against them. So where does all of this leave us with respect to Rebecca? Is she a hero? Is she a villain? Maybe neither, maybe both? I am honestly not sure, and I'm really curious what you all think. So I'd like to take a moment to give everybody the opportunity to discuss this a little. This is the dreaded breakout rooms that are coming up, but just for a few moments, I promise, and with some direction. And to complicate things a little further, there's a short poem that I really love about Rebecca's first encounter with Isaac that I think raises some really interesting questions about both of them. So in just a moment, we're going to split everyone up into breakout rooms for just a few minutes so that you can take a look at this poem and discuss what it might add to our understanding of Rebecca and Isaac. But before I do that, I want to quickly, and pardon me as I take a moment to do this, place in the chat the file that contains the poem and the guiding questions that I hope we can respond to. And I will also, in addition to placing the file in the chat, I will also copy the text of the poem and the questions into the chat. And when you go into your breakout room, that text should follow you there. So I'll take a moment to read this poem. It's entitled Isaac, and it was originally written in Hebrew by the Israeli poet Rivka Miriam. And if you were with me in Torah study for this Parsha last year, it may sound a little familiar. Isaac. Rebecca has married the dusks that are the essence of in-betweens, a gray so sensitive it easily forgives. On a noble camel she rode toward her dusks, and seeing them across from her, so restrained, serious as jasmine severed from its fragrance, she fell off the camel like a joyous vat of wine whose hoops have been loosened. So you should now be able to see that poem in the chat. You should be able to see a few guiding questions. And in just a moment, we will send you to breakout rooms. And I invite you to look at the poem, look at the questions, and see what you can glean about the characters of Isaac and Rebecca. So Gordon, if you would, please go ahead and send us into our breakout rooms. Well, welcome back to the main room from your breakout rooms. I hope everybody's conversation was as rich as the one that I just got to participate in. I would actually love to invite folks, if there is anybody who was participating in a conversation just then where they feel like there were some insights either that they had or someone else had that they would particularly like to share, I'd love to invite you to, if you know how, you can raise your hand in the participant list, or really you can also just go ahead and unmute yourself and shout something out. I'd love to know some of the thoughts that folks had about this poem and what it means.
You know, it's interesting. I didn't understand it when I was in the group, and I write poetry. So, you know, I mean, that's like one of the main things I do. But when I thought about it just a second ago, what came to me was the idea that Isaac has almost died at his father's hand. And so he is in between. That's what the dusks and the in-between part is about, I guess, at least to me. And let's see, where's the rest of the poem? Yeah, so he's in between, and then the whole thing about a grace so sensitive it easily forgives. He's forgiving, I guess you could say he's forgiving his father, or maybe he's forgiving God. And the jasmine severed from its fragrance to me is, again, goes back to the Akedah. So otherwise I can't make a sense of why seeing someone restrained, you would fall off your camel. That doesn't add up to me. But I think if it's in the context of the Akedah, then the poem has a lot of resonance.
Thank you. Yeah, I think those are a lot of great insights. And we also in my group talked a little bit about the grayness and about how part of what's striking about Isaac is how little we know about him. And there's a certain vagueness about him. And the grayness speaks to that. But I'll stop talking because I don't want to steal anybody's thunder. David Newman, please go ahead.
There we go. Our group sort of had a disagreement as to whether Isaac is just sort of a passive bridge between Abraham and Jacob, or is himself an actor who lives a full life, father, son, and father, and the in a sense the father of a great nation, and that was sort of our discussion. I've always thought of Isaac as sort of the vague gray character of the patriarchs, that we don't know much about him. He disappears after the Akedah, doesn't show up till he gets married, and then gets deceived by his wife into blessing the wrong kid. And he doesn't do much. Well, there's not much story of what he does, and so that was our discussion, our debate.
Yeah, I think that's an important debate as well. I think that there are arguments to be made clearly on both sides. There's one other thing that I wanted to say, which is the idea that Isaac is somehow quick to forgive is also a really interesting idea, not only because of the Akedah, but because when I read that, I wonder if there's a little foreshadowing there about what's going to happen between him and Rebecca, and whether she anticipates that he might be a forgiving sort and that might be important to her someday. I did see, thank you, David, I did see that Roberta and Steve had a hand up at one point, but I think they put it down. However, if they are interested in sharing, I would invite you guys to go ahead and let us know what your thoughts are. I'm going to click the Ask to Unmute button in case you'd like to do that. Perhaps not. Well, there have been a few thoughts also shared in the chat, including Lisa's reflection that this is a really beautiful poem. And I agree. There's something incredibly compelling about the language of it. And it is clear that she falls hard for him, both metaphorically and literally at the end, right? And of course, the poem is playing on the idea that the word that is used when she comes down from her camel in the Torah is vatipol, that normally what that word means is that she would have fallen off of the camel. And there are many commentators who have a great deal to say about that, who sort of try to make it make sense and make it so that she's not just falling off the camel, because what's that about? But according to the poem, it's to do with the intensity of her feeling, I think. And then also, I very much like what Eric has said, which is that he sees Isaac as being very human, between neither pure good nor purely bad, striving to overcome his darkness. And also from Lisa, that gray does not get enough praise in life. So agreed to all of that. I've always found it sort of challenging to think about Rebecca. And when I do, often the very famous line from Walt Whitman's poem, Song of Myself, springs to mind, right? That moment where he says, "Do I contradict myself? Very well, then I contradict myself. I am large, I contain multitudes." And I feel that way about Rebecca and Isaac and the Torah in general. All of them contain multitudes. Returning for a moment to Rabbi Held's words about this parsha, he suggests that the truth that we learn from Parshat Chayei Sarah is that most of us are neither purely righteous nor totally wicked. All of us, I would say. We are capable of both deep kindness and staggering selfishness. We may be tempted to believe that attunement to other people's vulnerabilities leads ineluctably to care and concern for them, but emotional sensitivity is no guarantee of kindness. The ability to understand other people's experience can elicit generosity, but it can also enable scheming and manipulation, often in the very same person. In its portrayal of Rebecca, the Torah presents a sobering reminder of what is perhaps the simplest and deepest truth we know about ourselves. People are complicated. And I think that's what makes for the enduring relevance and inspiration of Torah, the fact that it comprehends and presents this complexity to us. It doesn't attempt to oversimplify human nature, nor to oversimplify our lives, because we are complicated and our world is complicated. And as we continue to move through this time where we feel joy and difficulty, where there's triumph and trauma, I hope that we can find a way to hold on to all of these truths and all of these realities that are around us, and to keep a watchful eye on the bad things without losing sight of the good ones. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom. We now take a moment to pray for those in our community who are in need of healing, healing of mind or body or spirit, full and speedy healing. We think particularly this evening of Shoshana Chana Asher, Dr. Elliot Eisenberg, William Kurian, Carolyn Stellman, and Hilary Van Trees. And to those names, we add any names that you hold in your hearts this evening or that you might wish to add in the chat. Please join us in praying for healing with words of Misha Berach.
מקור הברכה אמותינו, may the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imotenu, mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
When we come together as a community, we have the opportunity to celebrate each other's simchas, our joys, all of the happy moments that are occurring in our lives. I know we have some birthdays that have come up recently, some anniversaries, all kinds of other simchas. I invite you to please tell us in the chat what you might be celebrating this evening. Oh my goodness. Wonderful. Adrian says she ran the 150-mile 2020 Kaiser Permanente Around the Bay Challenge. Yasher Koach, that sounds like quite an accomplishment. I cannot quite imagine doing that. So in honor of all of the simchas that we're all enjoying this evening, I invite you to please join the cantor in the Shehechianu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Amen.
Amen. And Mazal Tov to also to David Perlstein, who has a piece in the J. And yes, congratulations to all of these folks who are telling us about their wonderful simchas in the chat. We now begin to conclude our service. And we invite you to rise once more and join us in praying for the ability to bring about the world that God hopes we can one day live in with our prayer Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Our thoughts now turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and every nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. Tonight, we remember for Shloshim, for the first 30 days of mourning, Marion Goldine, Moshe Lieb King, Lenore Levin, and of course, Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, former Chief Rabbi of the UK and the Commonwealth. The perpetual memorials in our community are Judith M. Escalante Melvin and Art Rosenberg. We also observe the following yahrzeits this evening. We remember Bernice Berman, Samuel Adams Blattis, Jerome Brondfield, David Daniel Feynman, Leona Fishman, Heinz Frankenstein, Marjorie Freeman, Gertrude Key, George Nathan, Bertha Nelson, Elza Neuhaus, Herbert Reznikoff, Morris Scheftel, and Bertha Zuckerman. And to those names, we add all the names that you hold in your hearts or that you mention in the chat. We invite you to join us in remembering our loved ones with words of Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah. B'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. Yitadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal. Shmei d'kudsha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, ta'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. May the one who creates peace on high bring peace to us and to all Israel. And we say, Amen. Before we conclude our service with Kiddush and Motzi and a final song, we have a moment to make announcements. So Executive Director Gordon Gladstone, do you have any announcements to share?
I do. I want to point out to everybody that we're running a lovely and I think potentially very interesting program on the future of the vaccine effort on Monday evening. And the information is both in Under the Dome on the website, and it was in the Friday Missive, as we call Rabbi Graf's email on Friday mornings. So you can find the link and the information there. I think it'll be a really fascinating program, especially in light of the recent news from Pfizer and others. So I invite you to join us. Of course, there's Torah study this weekend, tomorrow morning with Rabbi Phelps. And there's a studio beach cleanup on Sunday morning. I don't know, Rabbi, if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Sure. If you are in studio or you are studio adjacent, if you are a family that includes some kids, we'd love to see you at the beach. We are inviting everyone to join us at Ocean Beach at 10 a.m. between 10 and noon across, basically the entrance that's across from the Dutch windmill. We're asking that anybody who attends, and in fact requiring that anyone who attends come properly masked, that everyone remain 6 feet or more at all times, distanced from anyone not in their household, and also that all kids be accompanied at all times by a parent or guardian. And provided that you are able to adhere to those directives, we would love to see you. Also, if you do come, please bring, yes, as Adrian has pointed out in the chat, please bring gloves. Ideally, what you really want is gardening gloves or work gloves, although any kind of gloves is better than no gloves. And you'll want to bring some bags. You know, it could be leftover shopping bags, plastic bags, or it could be trash bags. You'll want to carry the trash away from the beach with you and take it ideally home, because it doesn't actually help the beach that much if we just stuff it all into their trash cans. And you might want to bring a bucket or something of that sort, or grabbers if you have such things. At any rate, there's all kinds of information about this. All of the details are in the event in the calendar on the website, so feel free to check that out. So yes, we hope we're going to see lots of folks on Sunday. And also with respect to Torah study tomorrow, if you're the kind of person who likes it when we just take a single word and dwell on it for an entire Torah study session, then you will have a lot of fun tomorrow. So that's the agenda for that session. And yes, and the Talmud class continues to be going strong. So please feel free to join us on Thursdays for that as well. Cantor, sorry, go ahead.
Yes, no, please, sorry. I just wanted to make sure. We have Tot Shabbat next Friday at 5 p.m., which is going to be wonderful. If you have a tot or you are tot adjacent, if there are tots in your life, please, if you're a grown-up, come along and join us for Tot Shabbat, kids ages 0 to 5. We're going to sing some songs and do some fun Shabbat prayers. It should be a blast. And also Thursday night, we have our choir get together. If you've never been to choir, if you've never been in a choir in your life, that is totally fine. I would love to see more people join the choir. At the moment, we're kind of singing things on Zoom with some guitar accompaniment. We're doing a lot of rounds and nigunim, wordless melodies. So please shoot me an email if you'd like to join, and I'll send you the details for that. It'll be a Zoom meeting on Thursday night, 7 till 8:30.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Cantor. So we now continue with Kiddush, with the blessing over our sacral wine. And I believe that Ruth Auerbach has valiantly volunteered to lead us in Kiddush this evening. So if we could spotlight Ruth, there she is. And I'm going to click the ask you to unmute button. So it should be, there you go. All right, Ruth, is there anything we should know about your Kiddush cup?
I believe this was Dave's bar mitzvah Kiddush cup. So
cool.
We have a collection of B'nai Mitzvah Kiddush cups in the house, but this one I believe was Dave's. So,
well, thank you, and please.
Back there behind me.
Oh, well, hello, we see you back there.
Prefer not to say.
Please go ahead and lead us in the blessings.
Sure. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh bereshit ki banu bacharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol hamim v'shabbat kodshecha ve'ahava u'ratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat.
L'chaim.
Amen. L'chaim.
L'chaim.
That was beautiful, Ruth. Thank you so much for leading us.
Thank you.
Well, this week, I actually have a challah to show off. I
Wow.
cannot claim to have made this lovely challah, but a certain Cantor, Richard Newman, has made this challah, which I think is quite beautiful, and I look forward to eating it. So if you too have a challah, please feel free to hold it up so that we can see. And of course, Ruth does, and I see Alan Artis doing, Shira and Bill, and I'm sure many other folks whom I cannot currently see. But please hold up your chalot and join the Cantor in the motzi.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'te'avon.
Amen. B'te'avon, enjoy your chalot. And we conclude our service with music, with Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, one of the beautiful songs in which we pray for peace, the many prayers for peace that we hold dear in our tradition.
Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.